Hey everybody, so no fear, Stephanie is with me. Just not with me right this second, but we're gonna start it off anyway. Today, we're at the National Weather Service here in Morristown, and they're having a second grand opening, so follow us.
Historical Society in downtown Knoxville. Have y'all ever visited us before? So we are downtown on Gay Street, and the reason I'm here is because we have one of the last weather kiosks in the country in its original location.
Weather kiosks?
Yeah. So it was put in around 1912. And it displayed local weather information. So there were all sorts of thermometers and barometers inside of it to tell the temperature in the area, different things like that. And it was used up until the 1930s. But then at that point, with the radio becoming more prominent, the weather was broadcast on the news more, so people didn't really use the weather kiosk as much. And so it was actually sold at auction in the 1930s to a local funeral home in Knoxville that used it to display like funeral information. And then in the early 2000s, we found out about it. And so the Historic Society was able to get it back and partnered with the National Weather Service to restore it. And so we were able to put it back in its original location where it is today. So this is a picture of it around 1916.
1916?
Yes. Yeah, and then this is where it is today.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, I need something on the tower over there.
So that
That's
big
our radar.
white sphere is this satellite dish?
Yes, so that the white dome is protective cover, and this is actually what it's made of right here. So
Insulated.
Yeah, it's very dense fiberglass. So the radar beam could just go through right through that. So this is what it looks like from the inside.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a satellite dish, and it's spinning around. And so as it's spinning around, it sends out bursts of energy. The bursts of energy will bounce off objects in the atmosphere, like raindrops or hail, and then part of that energy comes back to the radar, and it detects how much energy came back. So a big hailstone that's made of ice is going to send back more energy than like a very small raindrop.
Is that an example of how every satellite dish would work? It monitors energy?
Yeah, that's how radar works.
Radar.
Yeah, radar.
This panel is
amazing.
Yeah. A tornado that occurred in Oklahoma. Now this is a very obvious example of a tornado. So all
Right, so the white would be like the debris field.
well, no, actually the white is like where the radar is detecting hail. The tornado is down here. You can see on this part of the storm down here, that little hook, it kind of spins up right there.
Yes.
So that hook is winds that are rotating counterclockwise.
you can predict
It's like a very tight, low-pressure area.
Right.
Air is spinning very quickly counterclockwise. And so this is a velocity image, so that the radar can detect air moving away or toward the radar, like Doppler, it's called like Doppler radar. So the radar is over here. So the blue and the green is wind moving this way, and then red is air moving this way. So when we see a really strong blue against red, it's detecting that rotation of the tornado.
And this is an example in Oklahoma because it's that much easier to see.
In Oklahoma, you get much more dramatic, stronger storms like this. In East Tennessee, it's a lot more rare. We can get it like April 27, 2011. We had storms that looked like this, produced very intense tornadoes. But it's a pretty rare occurrence in this area.
It's literally just trying not to splash.
It's gonna rain.
So it just simulates rainfall, and eventually the different floodplains will fill up here. If it gets heavy enough, so you can see like the floodplains are, that one gets flooded out a lot. But
Yep, there
you have to dump
go.
a lot of water to get this next level, right? So you can pour it straight onto this. So that'd be like your city,
Right.
your cityscape.
We got the Tennessee River system.
So we were able to see where we're at up here in the Nolichucky area.
Yep, Nolichucky up that way.
We're right in this area right here.
Yep. Douglas Dam Lake.
And today we're in Morristown.
Yeah.
But this is education
and
on
I never
everything.
I never really took notice until today, actually looking at this. All of this eventually ends up in the Mississippi River.
So listen, honey, that's that
Yeah, so
sphere that
that's-
had the radar
Yeah,
inside
that has
of
the
it.
radar inside of it spinning around.
National Weather Service.
And it's actually in there spinning around right now.
It's one of your passions, always has been since we've been together.
Yes.
Is you're a wannabe meteorologist, honey.
Yeah. Love it. So there's the rain gauge they have here.
Yeah, these go up to about 100,000 feet, and then the balloon bursts, and this is what's left of it. Falls down on the, and then
Now these get sent up into
yeah, they just on a balloon, just let go.
into the storm or just
No,
on a
these
sunny
every
day.
day. No, every day at the same time.
Yeah.
Twice a day, from all the different locations that launch them. I can't remember how many. It's not this one, and this is not one of them. But it's, I think it's more than a dozen all over the country. Twice a day, exact same time, all of them launch. And then they take their data, collect it, and then this data you can listen to for free. It's 404 megahertz, and you can decode it. It's really easy to do. And then you can see exactly what this thing's transmitting back. But then I think there's also websites you can go to and you can see it, so you don't have to actually make anything.
Having a blast.
So the main gist of this is they can support events and so forth with communication. They can communicate, across the street or across the world. A bunch of games for kids.
Just throw a hula hoop over a cloud.
Yep. Now we know why it was foggy this morning. They had a fog machine going
It's
on
always
over here.
foggy in the mornings here at the Smokies.
Seems that way. Hey, we made it inside. There's that last kiosk color picture. So we're inside.
And they have some exhibits around the room.
Yep, and I had to point out Penn State little flag up there. There we go, looking out the window.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, there's still a lot of things that you're controlled by feeling, knowledge, and what you.
So what are we looking at here? Oh, the wind, elevation, temperature, I guess that is. Trying to find, there's Greenville. So, I don't know if that's temperature, it says 55 degrees.
Being able to recognize it. This reminds me that this is what ended up happening because
Well, maybe. It's saying it's 55 in Greenville. I still can't see over there. This must still be foggy. That's pretty awesome though, right?
So this is what you go to school for, to learn how to read this.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know what any of this means. Oh, there they got.
There's our dam.
Yeah, the Nolichucky Dam. Yeah.
so it's like either in person.
But they have a lot of information here. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend that I know any of it. That looks like a one that's reading fires on.
Yes,
Over there.
that's fires, yeah. There's scenes from drone video footage, Irwin, Tennessee, after Helene.
Yep. Yeah, that the news channel, local news, put out.
Adds a little bit of credence.
My presentation is actually going to be on
National Weather Service history. Oh, if you guys want to come on in, I don't know if we have a come on down a little bit. I guess my name is David Hodes. I'm the Science and Operations Officer here. I've actually had the pleasure of working here for about the last 30 years. So I've had a chance to see a lot of different things, a lot of changes in our office, and a lot of different weather that we've experienced. So if you guys have any questions, don't feel hesitant to ask questions during the presentation. So what is the National Weather Service? One of the things that we have is what they call weather forecast offices, and that's what this is. This is a weather forecast office. There's about 122 of these offices across the nation. We have them up in Alaska, we have them in Guam, Puerto Rico, so they're all over the nation that we have weather offices. Essentially when it comes to hierarchy of the government, we have the Department of Commerce, then you have NOAA, and then you have the National Weather Service. That's typically how it works out. One thing I want to warn you, the Weather Service, we love our acronyms. Don't we, Isaac? Oh, yeah. Isaac is also a meteorologist. Isaac, you just graduated from UNC Asheville, didn't you? Sure did. Okay. So that's kind of how it works. We're going to focus on, it says Knoxville, but it's our Morristown office. So our Morristown office, essentially we have 5 counties in Southwest Virginia, all of Eastern Tennessee, and we have 2 counties in Cherokee in North Carolina. So I'm going to kind of focus on East Tennessee weather history. Actually, East Tennessee weather history, getting into East Tennessee history of the National Weather Service actually starts back in the 1870s. At that time, we weren't the National Weather Service. All the observational information actually came from the Army. The Army is what actually had the observations. Currently, of all these red dots that we were located at one time, there's only 2 left. There's the Morristown office, and there's also a NOAA office in Oak Ridge. Now, our missions between the 2 offices is totally different. Our mission is for forecasting through day 7. We also do all the warnings and watches for this area. We do a lot of public support, kind of supporting our different emergency managers, because every county has an emergency manager. We support them. We actually sometimes even go to them and provide weather support. For example, at the Tennessee game today, we're actually going to send somebody to the ball game and work with the emergency manager to provide support. Well, obviously today there's not a whole lot of weather going on, but we are there. Okay, so the first office I was going to talk about is the Knoxville office. At that time, they used to call them the Weather Service offices. And that office actually opened up back in 1871. And I'll kind of show you a chronology of all the different places we're at. Now, this opened back in 1871. It was, again, part of the U.S. Army Signal Service. It eventually went to the Agriculture Weather Bureau office back in 1891. And back in the 70s is when it actually started the National Weather Service. So it definitely changed through the years. This is a picture around 1940 at the Knoxville Airport. So definitely the airport's changed dramatically over the years. Okay, so this is kind of a chronology of where the different offices were located in Knoxville's area. One thing that's kind of interesting, the actual first observation started from a doctor's office. But it kind of shows you the difference. Their offices opened up for quite a few years until its closure back in 1997. So there's a lot of, it went from really a lot of it downtown part of Knoxville that eventually moved into the airport. Okay, so I want to tell you an interesting factoid. So let me ask you, who's all from Knoxville? All right, so one thing I was going to tell you is that the Knoxville office never had a weather radar. It never had a radar to help issue warnings. So you're probably going to ask yourself, how did they do it? Well, a lot of times they actually didn't issue warnings until they heard something was going on. And that was all the way through the 1980s. So it's really changed dramatically once this office picked up more responsibilities for the Knoxville area. So this map right here, which I know is pretty crude, is kind of fuzzy, but it kind of shows you back in the 70s and 80s where the old radar system was located at and kind of the coverage of the radars. So let me kind of show you a little bit more about that. So this is a picture of what the old weather radar used to look like. This is a WSR 57. It's essentially technology they had back during World War II. It shows you how old the technology is. I actually had a chance when I first got into the Weather Service to actually utilize this radar when I first got in. And I'm going to give you a kind of example how it worked. Okay, so it was black and white. And the room that you went into to utilize that radar, we had it completely dark because you really couldn't see things unless it was dark inside. So I would sit there. You had essentially 3 screens. One of the screens looked like this, and the radar would just go around. So it would highlight where the latest storm location was. So let's just say I wanted to focus on this storm right here. I had to pop a button, so we go pop, and then I would slowly stop the radar to that location. I would take another button, drill it up, bring the radar up and down to look at the storm, and then when I was happy with what I want to look at, I had to pop a button again to get it going again. So that's how it used to be back in the actually really most of the 80s until almost the early 90s. But now we have the new radar, this is the WSR 88D. Actually, initially it was just WSR 88 because the D. Well, actually, it was WSR 88D, but there's another change back in 2012 I'll talk to you about. But this is what it looked like that we have now, and you can see essentially night and day. The technology, and we can zoom in right into that area, look at a storm, and it's always updating the information. Okay, so now I want to focus on the Tri-Cities. Who's all for the Tri-Cities here? We got a good group of the Tri-Cities. Okay, so the Tri-Cities, they're started back in 1944 at the Tri-Cities Airport. They did have a radar. It was the WSR 57. So they actually did have a radar on top of Hosted Mountain, where it's located at. And I used to work back in the Tri-Cities Airport at the weather office there back in the 80s. And one problem we had a lot with the old 57 radar, since it was on top of Hosted Mountain, which is right around about 4,200 feet up. There's a lot of what we call beam blockage. And you really couldn't see some of the storms totally well. So it did have some problems with that radar. But eventually this office closed, the Tri-City office closed, and all their service went to this office in '95.